All right, getting going here. The, the engine is loading. All right. How's it going, Global Healing Community? How's it going? Global Healing Collective, how's it going today? Today I am here with Jamie Traeger-Muney talking about her Conscious Business Spotlight, her work in the world. So excited to bring you this Conscious Business Spotlight today. Jamie, welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. And as I said to you earlier, this is my very first Facebook Live.
Yes.
Moving into the real world.
This is well so right now you are roughly about 7 or 8 hours further along on our Monday. Today you were in Maccabeem, Israel, right? So thank you so much for kind of ending your day with us, and it's really cool as we've gotten to know each other over the years to know that we have connectivity throughout this amazing planet. And so
really global.
Yeah, truly is global. And so I'd love to hear, I'd love to start out how we start out with all these spotlights with the question, what inspired you to begin building and creating your business, which I didn't say what it was yet, and I'll let you kind of introduce your work.
Sure. I am a clinical psychologist by training. And when I first started my practice, I lived in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, and I lived in Oakland, in a fairly wealthy area. And it was very interesting to me what wasn't being spoken about. And what wasn't being spoken about was money or wealth or privilege. There were sort of crickets. I was getting a lot about sex, but I wasn't getting a lot about money, unless people didn't have money. But I knew that a lot of my clients did have money, and it was really fascinating, Nick. It was just absent. It was like money didn't exist on any domain. There was just this vacuum. And I'm a person who always gets really fascinated by what people aren't talking about. And at the same time, I grew up in my father started a family business, of which now my siblings and I are owners, co-owners. My siblings work in it. And so I grew up in a family wealth. I grew up as an inheritor. And I also experienced, in my family, we talked about it a lot. We talked about money, we talked about the implications, but in the bigger world, there were also crickets. So, I was fascinated by what I wasn't seeing with my clients, and I also identified with that personally. And one of the stands that I am for in the world is to give everybody an opportunity to talk about whatever's pertinent to them. And, I feel like real trouble can happen when we stuff things and when we don't talk about it. What I say to my clients is, imagine you went out to a Michelin star restaurant, you had amazing food, and then you come home with leftovers and you put them in the refrigerator, and now they're amazing leftovers. But if you ignore them in your refrigerator, eventually they're going to go bad. And not because the food that's in there was anything wrong with it. It's the simple act of not looking at it. So I believe that money is still our big taboo. We have conversations about racism. We don't talk so much about classism. And believe it or not, most people think, what could people of wealth possibly need to talk about? They actually need to talk about a lot. And so I decided to shift my model from one of therapy, because I didn't want to give it this double whammy of, the negative connotations we have associated with needing to go to a psychologist and then talking about wealth. So I created the Wealth Legacy Group, and we really focus on the emotional impact of money, wealth, and privilege in people's lives. And I knew I was onto something when, it's amazing to me, whenever I have a new client or, a prospective client, I can literally, Nick, set my watch by this comment. 20 minutes into every conversation, the client says to me, without fail, "I'm so happy I found you. I have nowhere else to talk about it." And to me, that's the moment that I'm like, yes, this is the opportunity that I want to provide. That we all have our unique experiences, and whatever it is, we should have the opportunity in a non-judgmental space to be able to look at it and to, the more we're able to clear our own baggage, the more we're able to go, so much of what I love about this network is people want to make a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. And we're all here to do something. And if we have areas of our life that we haven't talked about, that can get in the way of us successfully being the contributions we want to be in the world.
Yeah. And I love that. And the couple things that came up for me while you were chatting about it is that, in your experience, do you find that people are coming because you switched your focus to it sounds like you switched your focus from traditional therapy to to being more and more specific to money, right? Are you finding that is that's a draw? It sounds like you're finding that that's a draw for people to be able to come and have that space. Because as you were saying, if people are telling you, "I'm glad that I found you," it seems as though they're looking for a place to be able to actually talk about this specific topic. Now, of wealth, privilege, of money itself, and so I assume that just opens up the door to other topics or other things that are either related or interweaved into the reason that they came to you.
Absolutely. And, on the business side of it, I was a little bit strategic. I graduated, I got my PhD, and I thought, wow, I really know nothing about running a business. And, my father's very entrepreneurial. I think I have an entrepreneurial spirit in me. And I took this it wasn't even a webinar. I think we all met by phone. That's how long ago it was. And it was called The Business of Psychology. And one of the things they said in like the free, call, which, they often say the best stuff comes in that free stuff, is that psychologists tend to be a mile wide and an inch deep. And our interests follow our own lives, but we're not memorable. And what they said is find the thing that you're most interested in. One of the things you're most interested in that's the most unique, and specialize in that. And it was like risky to think I'm going to narrow down from all the possible things that people want, therapy for, but now coaching and consulting for. I'm going to narrow down that potential target market to being extremely niche, to working with ultra high net worth families, and then niche it down even more to specializing and working with inheritors. Mm-hmm. And actually what I found is, from a business perspective, that was really brilliant suggestion, because I've gotten, I've been doing this work for over 15 years, but I've gotten much more press interviews and I think cold people finding me on the internet, because I am in, I don't know if you've read the book, Blue Ocean, or Red Ocean, Blue Ocean, but I am more in a blue ocean. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, people come in the door with their issues about money and wealth, but then we talk about a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And I also, do work with families on family governance. So sometimes my clients are multi-generational families. It can be anywhere from 4 people in a family up to I've worked with a family that there were over 20 people that we were working with at a time.
Mm-hmm. And why do you feel as though that work or mission is important to leaders and to change makers? And so, and I focus in on that leaders or change makers piece, because I think that are you finding that some of these clients are maybe some of the generational pieces of that are wanting to create change or wanting to lead in a different way than their previous generations? I'm just interested to hear more a little bit about why you think that this specific niche that you're working in has been important.
Yeah, so there's 3 parts to that. First of all, let me contextualize it a bit. So we are currently in the largest wealth transfer in history. In the next, we're in the middle of it. It'll be taking place for, another 10 years. But there's going to be $39 trillion, trillion with a T, that gets passed down from one generation to the next. So first of all, there's a ton of money in play, and inheritors are the recipients of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're also in a period of, and let me back up a minute. I believe that we're all here for a reason, and that part of what allows us to thrive in the world is to find our purpose and to be a contribution. So, that is a basic mindset that I come in with that isn't just mine. I mean, it's based on the research of how humans flourish. Then on top of that, you also have a resurgence of interest in philanthropy and how people are having social impact and being interested in that. So, I felt that I was really at this perfect nexus. And so one of the things that I believe is that it's really important for all of us to see, and I use some of these financial terms loosely, what all of our assets are. So what do we bring? What do we have to contribute? And then what are we trying, what's our legacy? What are we trying to create? So if people are trying to create change and they have so much wealth to do it with, how can I best leverage myself strategically to make the biggest ripple impact in the world? And what I really saw was that if I could help inheritors, first of all, it comes from something that I know, but I also saw this great opportunity. If I could help inheritors to really get clear about the legacy that they want to create in the world, and then use all of their resources, including their financial resources, in service of achieving those goals, then that was an incredible way that I could sort of position the fulcrum where when I jumped on the seesaw, the rock would have the greatest impact. And, I love doing that. I love thinking, how can I be strategic? I could take the money that I have and invest it in philanthropy, or I can help others who have access to a lot to really get clear what they want to do and to empower them to make big changes in the world.
Yeah, and I think that I love that, and the ability for there's a shared humanity regardless of a socioeconomic status, and that's a belief in a context I'll bring to to our third question is that we all have aspirations, I think, especially in Global Healing Collective, of providing that ripple, of being of service to a greater passion, to a greater mission. And so, whether we are a person of whatever socioeconomic status, that is a shared, I think, a shared drive, to your point, for humans that want to flourish, right? And so, the ability for you to create the ripple, it seems as though that's in a great place. For you to be able to do that, to use that fulcrum, metaphor as well, of positioning yourself in a place where you can, make the biggest bump, with skill set, with all of the passions and interests that you have. And that's really great to hear. We haven't had that conversation, before. It's really cool to hear it from that perspective. And so, given all of this human need for flourishing that you mentioned, how do you see your work as a catalyst, creating that ripple, not only within your work, but outside of maybe in your family, maybe in your community that you live in? How do you continue to see this work helping to create that ripple?
Well, again, I think that there's not a lot of good role models for inheritors, and there's a lot of kind of microaggression. That's the term that I use. So not outward, well, there's some outward hostility to wealth holders, but there's much more kind of micro hostility. So, little comments that really have a lot of my clients hiding. And it has them so consumed with feeling guilty, especially inheritors, because they didn't earn it. And they feel that so intrinsically. you know, so they feel a lot of guilt. They feel like it's not fair. They didn't necessarily ask for it, you know, and we all inherit things, and some of us inherit things that involve privilege. I mean, you know, there's not a better or worse of being born in the United States versus being born somewhere else, but it confers a lot of privilege to us. So we can either bemoan it and feel bad about it and let it stop us, or we can use it and leverage it towards making the difference we want. So I think that a lot of my inheritors get stuck. They're hiding, they're isolated. They think that they're the only ones in the world that has ambivalent feelings about it, and they beat themselves up about having ambivalent feelings, because if you ask most people and you said, you know, would you like to inherit a lot of money? Most people would say yes, including them. But they're, you know, it's too unidimensional to talk about it as only being good. And I think we live in a world that believes that the more money you have, the better life is. And it's more complicated than that. It's more multidimensional, especially when you talk about really wanting to make a difference in the world and feeling like you have so much more than other people. So, you know, that's where I really thought that I could start, because again, I hear it all the time from clients. I have nowhere else to talk about this. So I almost, you know, sometimes I equate it to what it was like, you know, maybe to come out of the closet as gay 20 years ago, you know, where you really were worried that your friends would judge you or would dislike you. And that there really is a lot, you know, I see a lot of clients that they won't have people to their house. You know, they do some lying about where they're going on vacation, you know. And even when clients find out about the wealth, it usually happens for them in college. So, you know, they have a lot of friends who are on student loans, and, you know, they don't know what to do with that. They don't know how to channel it, and they need an opportunity to just to process it.
And and it is through the work that you're doing that you're giving them that container, to, so to speak, you know, for that processing.
Exactly. And I used to really just process the upset and, you know, the you know, low self-esteem or the feelings of not fairness. Now, what I really found, and I call this program Thrive and Help Thrive, is that the more that I can get my clients excited and to have clarity about what they're uniquely here to do, the more, and how they want to make a contribution in the world. And I don't mean a financial contribution, but how they want to be of service. The more they're able to help other people thrive, their own level of thriving rises. And, you know, those feelings of insecurity start to take care of themselves. So that again is a beautiful, it's not only a ripple impact out, but it's a ripple impact back in as well.
What would you say is you know, whether it be a question or a prompt or a thought or something that you give to folks when they maybe begin work with you, that or over the course of the first, you know, let's just call it 3 to 5 sessions. What's something that you're always kind of that you find interesting when you ask that you get an answer that they didn't really come up? Like, is there something that happens in those first few sessions that really that can help them turn the corner, that brings that awareness there? What I'm getting at is essentially seeing if there's something that, you know, as we, as the change makers and leaders within GHC, you know, there's very similar shared feelings. You know, when we talk to folks, you know, there's an isolation there, you know, especially when they're looking to do something that's bigger than what they've ever done before, right? Whether it be a start a business, go get it, you know, continue to launch a new product line, you know, to really just revamp what they're doing, whether they do it from a place of privilege or they do it from a place of new resources, you know, that may be one of the circumstances, but for the most part, there, you know, there is that period where they get the awareness of mission, passion, of interest, of the fact they need a change, And then there's I believe there's a place where they're trying to figure out, okay, now I get it. Now I can look at it from a different way, right? And from what I'm hearing from you say is that when clients are working with you, they get that opportunity to kind of find the way to look at it differently, maybe in a more generative way than they would look at it before. And so I'm curious as to see, is there a spot or a question or an exercise or something that you have seen that helps people a little bit to make that shift?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's two places that I focus that really help people. So the first place that I like to start to focus is on their past. And, I believe that we all stand on the shoulders of others. So I look at what I call inherited stories, because we all inherit things. We all inherit rules and ideas and feelings and attitudes about money. So, and most of us just go through life having those without having any conscious awareness of how they came to be or what they really are. We have certain attitudes, we have judgments, just like we have about all other things, but maybe we have more opportunity to explore how we feel about other things. If we don't really know what the drivers are around what our attitudes about money and wealth are, then we're working from an unconscious place. Yeah. So I help them consciously recognize those things, and then they get to make the decision. What can you say? Okay, well, those stories were stories that I grew up with, and now I'm going to consciously choose what stories I want to move forward with. So that's very empowering. And then I think the other really important thing is to help them create the legacy that they want to lead. Because I believe that, we can never get to where we're going unless we have a destination. So being able to sort of reverse engineer, find that destination, sometimes I jokingly call it with clients, like, if your destination is the Wizard of Oz, then we can chart the yellow brick road. But it's hard to, design the map if we don't know where we're going to.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two bookends. Where have you come from, and how do you hope to leave the world in a better place? And then, so that's past and future. And then we come into the present to really look at what talents, relationships, financial resources, what different assets, what I call people's true net worth, can they bring to bear to bring their, to pull their desired future into being.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really great, framework to help empower the folks that'll come and watch the spotlight. Is just that, they're, we're touching upon it, right? There's a lot more pieces obviously that go into, the way in which we reflect upon the past, generate a future from that, generative future, one that's flourishing and thriving, and then kind of meet in the middle. I like that, I like that flow. That's really great.
Right. And really, like you said before, this is a universal thing, what I'm doing. I'm choosing a specific population that I focus on, but it's not any different than, what I believe really creates thriving in general. And it's why I want to be part of this community, because we are working together to have ripple impact. And I believe the community is such an essential piece of it. That's what I really see. If I had to say what's currently missing in the work I do or for the clients, I mean, that's the biggest thing that I see is missing, is that community aspect, that ability for my inheritor clients in particular to like drop that veil of fully being able to be themselves, because they almost never have an opportunity where they're not hiding, one aspect of themselves. So that's where my current work is going now.
That's great. And so, and which I think, the ask that you have for the community, I'll just say, what is the ask you have for the community? And I think that what you just said kind of may tie into that a little bit. But what are you looking for? What's your ask for the GHC community?
Thanks. Yeah, it definitely ties into it. So I've developed a retreat for inheritors that's going to be a very intimate affair. I'm going to have no more than 10 women in Grand Cayman Islands from April 30th to May 7th next year. And really, because there's so much hiding of inheritors, it's not like, if I wanted to advertise, a yoga retreat, there's lots of places to go and advertise yoga and yoga interest. But, this is much more of a grassroots thing. So my ask is really simple. If you know somebody who might benefit from being in a community environment with other inheritors and really working on this transformational piece in community, I would love it. I think you're going to post the link to the landing page.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if you would just forward along the information. I mean, that's a really simple ask for me, is just help me get the word out, because I know that there's so many women inheritors that want this, but how to get that bridge between what's going on. And to my knowledge, no one's running retreats for female inheritors or any inheritors, to having that information be in front of the people that might be interested. That's where I really need that bridging help. And you can see this is my first Facebook Live. It's not really something I go on Facebook Live to, to process.
Yeah. I just posted a little bit about it on the video for those that want to go and take a peek at it. But yeah, what I think is really important is what I took away from this conversation today is that, one, there is a conversation around money. Here at GHC, we have a specific pathway called conscious finance. It is a topic that we will cover in events in our event here in Denver in a couple of weeks. We'll actually cover that topic itself, and to begin to process, just give the space for the conversation. To your point, to bring forward, what are the ideas, the unconscious pieces in here that need to become conscious, right? And then, from there, from a business perspective, I really just honor the fact that you've continued to stay in the lane. Since I've known you since 2017, I've known you, and you've been doing this for much longer than that. But of a specific group of people, those that have brought and been given an inheritance, been given resources, and giving them the space for that conversation, this most important conversation for them to have. And that, just being able to go and find, what's what you think you said was most intently and most uniquely, you're interested in as a person, to be able to go and bring forward and create the ripple that you want to create. And so that's a great, thought jogger for some of the folks that are watching this, around what is the most thing that's intently me, and intentionally me, and mostly uniquely I'm interested in, to begin to bring my change work into the world.
Yeah. And a whole, I think there wasn't that room. I should also add, if I can add really quickly,
Sure.
Most people say to me, oh, I don't think that, the kind of wealth that I have, you're talking about big wealth, it's probably, I've had a lot of feedback from the retreat, like, oh yeah, I don't have that kind of wealth. And it really, there's no threshold there. The only threshold for working with me or being part of the retreat is there an emotional impact that the wealth in your life has? And it really, most of the time, unless there's a need to know reason, I don't even know what the wealth is. It's not relevant. I don't know what the threshold for me of having an emotional impact might be very different than the threshold for you. That part's fairly irrelevant. It's, are you feeling like one of the things that's holding you back from being all of who you want to be is that you have this ambivalence and nowhere to talk about it?
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love that shared humanity that, to bring it in, right? We all have these emotional experiences. We all have subjective thoughts about, a variety of different things in our life, money being the topic we're talking about today. And so, you're right. I think there isn't any specific relevance to a number, right? It's just a matter of, do you have that emotional reaction to being able to be the person that you're wanting to become. This might be holding you back. And so if that is you watching this later, please, reach out to Jamie
Or if you know anybody.
and you know anybody, reach out to Jamie. She's tagged here, and we're just always we're honored to have you as a catalyst here in this community, and for you to invest your time and some in your resources into to bringing this community into existence. So thank you for very much.
And I am a proud founding member, and look forward to continuing as GHC grows.
Thank you so much. All
Thanks,
right.
Nick. It was great talking to you.
Great. All right. Let's see y'all next time.